Dun 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 dun. Hello everyone. So today, since it's Friday the 13th, I thought I would do something a little on the creepy side. So this here is Raven and the Moon. For those of you that didn't know, Raven is a supernatural being in First Nation stories who is the one that brings light to the world. And in the stories, his human form actually does look quite strange, so I thought that'd be a fun thing to do an illustration of. So just like last time, I start out with a sketch. This one's also a Prismacolor Col-Erase. This one's in blue. So here I'm just putting down big blocks of color just so I have a little bit of a base to work with. I will preface this by saying that this technique didn't super work out well for me. I'm not sure if it's just a issue with the quality of the gouache. I'm kind of using just a regular student grade gouache just to try it out, or if it was a problem in my technique, but you'll see why this was a problem later. So I know that my color choices here seem a little bit crazy. I will admit that this piece definitely went through a massive ugly phase before it transforms into this creepy moon-eyed beauty that it ends up being at the end. So just blocking in a bunch of layers of color, just adjusting it and tweaking it as I go along. So my inspiration behind the way Raven looks here is imagining what someone would look like when they live without sunlight. And as this is Raven transformed into his human form, I thought I would keep the black eyes with the reflection of the moon to reference Raven in his true form. But yeah, I kind of figured that without the sun, he wouldn't have a lot of pigmentation in his skin, that it would probably be a little bit translucent even, so hence how he looks really kind of pale, sickly, and really almost alien looking in his complexion. So here, just adding a whole bunch more highlights. You'll see that I go back in with the white gouache quite often just to really build up that nice reflective white that I was looking for. So here, just going in with a little bit of this rosy lavender color, adding it to the lips and the eyes here, just trying to give it a little bit more life in the skin, while keeping that kind of pale, sickly sort of vibe to it. And again, here with the white gouache, you can see this is one of the problems that I was having with this. The layers underneath activated really easily as soon as they got wet, so it was really hard to layer on a bright white on top of a darker layer. And yeah, again, I'm not sure if this is just an issue with my technique or an issue with the paints that I was using, but I guess I was kind of expecting it to work a little bit more like acrylic in that it wouldn't lift unless I gave it a little bit more scrubbing, or if it was not completely dry yet. So it's still a learning progress. And then just adding a little bit more shadow and definition to the lips and to the nose here. So here's where it starts getting kind of fun. Adding the black to her eyes really I think amplified the creep factor in this picture. I don't think I was fully prepared for how much this was going to change the look and feel of the entire piece. So you can see later that I do try to tame this down a little bit, but I'm pretty okay with how it turned out anyway. And here's the start of my many layers of black. I don't know if it's because I watered it down too much, but it didn't come out as opaque as I was hoping, so I did have to add a ton of layers. It didn't go on super smooth straight out of the tube, so I did have to thin it down a little bit just so that I could get the effect that I wanted. And then I go in with this kind of cool gray color just to sort of sketch out the landscape behind the figure, and then just start very loosely blocking in some shapes and colors. So one of the things I really noticed was the more layers of black that I added to the background, the whiter her face looked. Go figure. So if I was to do this again, I would definitely work the background and her face together just so that I got the contrast right and it wasn't so stark. So here I start reworking the composition a little bit. I wasn't super digging how very close encounters of the third kind this was looking, so I figured adding a little bit more movement, so adding the arm coming up out of the frame would make the figure look a little bit less extraterrestrial. Yay, more layers of black. So I really wanted the back of her head to blend in with the background, so it was as if she was kind of emerging from the dark, just to add a little bit to the mysterious vibe and the feeling of the supernatural. So I realize I keep on switching up the pronouns. For those of you that might be a little confused, Raven in the stories that I've been told has always been referred to with male pronouns, but the reference photo that I used for this was of myself, so I'm having a hard time calling this picture a he, but Raven is supposed to be a male, but you know, he's a transformer, so who's to say that he couldn't present as a female if he so wished. I mean, he's a supernatural being. He can do what he wants, right? So anyway, just adding a little bit more of a warm tone here and there just to bring a teensy bit more life to her face, just so she's not quite so ghostly looking. So here I'm just adding some of the finer details to the eye. I'm actually adding a hand shape here, so it's just a reflection of her hand, as if her hand is holding up the moon. It's not really an obvious feature or anything, but it did help break up the really stark, like bright, spherical whites of her eyes. So I think that helped a little bit to tone down the intensity of the white. And here I'm just adding the last few little touches of color here and there, and the last wash of black just to really finish it off. And yeah, here's the finished piece. She turned out a lot creepier than I had anticipated, but you know, I'm pretty happy with how she turned out. This was definitely a learning experience in gouache. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Happy Friday the 13th. We'll see you next time. Bye!